Hi everyone, I'm Paulette Morrissey from Tulip Square, and today I'm going to show you how to make a block called Kitchen Tile, and it's a cute little block like this. Makes a pretty table runner or table topper or placemat or whatever you like, or quilt, obviously. It's a real quick and easy pattern to make, and I'm also going to show you a very cute variation on it that's really quick and easy to make. So we're going to head over to the sewing machine and get started. Okay, to make this kitchen tile block, all of the pieces you're going to need are in a PDF in the description below, so you can download that if you want to follow along or if you want to make these. It's a quick, easy pattern, and it's got some cute variations. So what I'm going to do is start by sewing these two rectangles. There's 4 of each for each block, and I'm just going to sew them together in pairs. Those 4. So I'm just going to sew them together in pairs, 1/4 inch seam along one long edge like this right here. So now I've got 4 of these all sewn together, and they're pressed towards the darker piece. So we'll set those aside, and then we're going to take, you have 5 of these squares for each block, and you're going to take 4 of them, and we're going to sew these little pieces to the corners. You're going to sew 1 here diagonally from point to point, and then you're going to sew 1 on the opposite corner diagonally, point to point. Don't sew 2 next to each other because they will overlap wrong. So make sure you sew opposite ones, and do that with 4 of these squares, and leave the 5th one plain. So I'm going to go sew these 2 pairs on each one, so they'll look like this, and we'll get all of those 4 done, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, now you've got your 2 pieces sewn on each square. Now what you're going to do is cut off these extra triangles, leave a 1/4 inch seam. You're just going to snip them off like this, and then I'm going to go press these open. Okay, now I've got 4 pieces like this with the 2 corners, and I've pressed them towards those corners. And then you're going to take your remaining little squares like this and sew them on the opposite 2 corners, like so. 1 here and 1 here. And if it's easier for you, rather than just eyeballing this up, I've got a line on my sewing machine that I follow, like right here. I follow this for my diagonal lines. I'll show you. I followed this edge right here. So if I'm sewing a diagonal line, and it starts right under my needle exactly, and I keep this little point on that diagonal line, I've got it sewn fine. But if you don't have something on your sewing machine you can follow, you can draw light lines on the backs of your triangles here. I mean, on the backs of your little squares, and just follow along that when you sew. The result is the same, obviously. So I'm going to go and sew 2 more squares on the last 2 corners of each of these, and then I'll be right back. Now I'm going to cut these corners off, same as I did before, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance, like so. I'm going to do that to all of them, and I'm going to also press these open, and I'll be right back. Now we've got 4 little squares like this. So your total pieces now are, you have 4 of these, you have 4 of these with the 2 half rectangles, and you've got 1 plain piece. So what you're going to do is you're going to start by sewing, taking 1 of these and sewing a triangle on either side of each of 2 of these. So we're going to sew like so and like so, and just 1/4 inch seam up the edges right here. Now I have 2 pieces like this, and with my remaining 3 little pieces here, I'm going to sew them like so. Plain piece in the center, and These are going to be sewn on the sides, 1/4 inch seam, and one on the other side. Now I've got one of these and two of these, and we're going to swing these around. Oops, and we're going to sew this one here and this one here, like so. 1/4 inch seams, and your seams will nestle nicely with each other right in the center blocks. And here you have your kitchen tile block all finished. It's very cute, very quick and easy. And then we've got a cool variation on this we can show you. We meaning me. Okay, so here's your block. And I've cut it apart just to show you something. Okay, here's what your block looks like now, sort of. I think I've screwed something up here. Okay, here's what your block looks like right now. But if we switch all the corners around and we turn them all so these little triangles are in the center, you get a whole different look. So I'm going to sew these together and show you how cool that looks. And this is just a matter of sewing these pairs together. This one here, just sewing along these side seams, and then sewing these two halves together. So I've sewed the two pairs together. Now I'm going to go press them open, and then I'm going to sew this center seam. And there you've got a completely different looking block. And you have to notice that when you're done with this block, I believe it's 9.5 inches square. And this one, by the time you finish sewing its extra little seams, it's 9 inches square. So that, you do understand that you'll lose 1/4 inch per seam. So you're going to lose 1/2 inch on here. And that's all there is to it. And that is kitchen tile with kitchen tile variation. I hope you enjoyed that. So now you know how to make the kitchen tile block and a quick cute variation on the kitchen tile, which makes it look like it's a little more complicated, but it really wasn't. So it's kind of a neat block to make, and it looks really pretty when you have a bunch of them together, or they can be alternated with something else to make a neat quilt. The sizes and dimensions and the quantities and everything that you need are in a PDF in the description below if you want to give this a try. And don't forget that on the Saturdays that we have our patterns, our videos for patterns that we already sell, like our placemats and runners and table toppers and everything. When we put up a video for a paid pattern, the pattern is free for 24 hours. It'll be free from the time we post it for the next 24 hours. So be sure you check that out every week. Hit the subscribe button and the like button, and hit the little bell if you want to be notified. Then you'll know every time a video comes up. You can be sure to get the free pattern if it's something you're interested in. So that's all for now. Hope you had a good day. Have a nice week. Bye-bye.